Suppose I were to ask you, if you had your choice, would you rather have $100 today or $100 in 1 year? I suppose most of you would say that you'd rather have the $100 today. If I asked you why, it's because you understand that you could take that $100 and invest it, or you could spend it, and you might as well have it now. And that would be true. But what if I were to change this? What if I were to say, would you rather have $100 today or $200 in a year? Well, I would guess that most of you would take the $200. If I asked you what kind of rate of return that is, you might know that it's a 100% rate of return because you're doubling your money over the course of 1 year. What if I were to change that? What if I were to say instead of $200 in a year, that you could instead have, say, $150 in 1 year? At this point, it does mean that instead of making 100%, you would only be making 50%. I would imagine most of you would still take the $150 because 50% is a pretty good rate of return, and assuming I'm good for the money and I'll give it to you, which I am, you would be better off taking the $150 in a year. What if I changed it, and what if I said, well, what if it were instead $120 in a year? And so at that point now you're really then going to be making 20%. Would you take that? Well, that's an individual decision. Some of you would, some of you wouldn't, but there's no doubt that as I went lower and lower, more and more of you would jump ship and just as soon would rather have the $100 today. This is an easy question. You could pretty much answer this just in your head. But what if I were to say, what would you rather have? $100 today or $50 in 1 year, $75 in 2 years, and $63 in 3 years? Well, now it's hard to say, and you actually have to sit down with a calculator and figure out, well, how much interest would you be earning? What's your rate of return? And that's what time value of money really is. It's a way for us to understand dollars that appear in different periods of time, oftentimes going much more than simply 3 years, but they could go out 40 or 50 years. But it allows us, time value of money allows us to figure out a lot of different questions that we have. How we save for retirement, how much we'd have to have in order to pay for college, all sorts of questions. So we're first going to start with just looking at the basic one, which is finding the future value of dollars. The calculation that's done, if you were to, let us say, have $100 and then you're going to earn 5% interest, first understand that every time we talk about an interest rate, it is always an annual rate. Always. So you wouldn't have to say, if I told you that you're making 5%, you wouldn't have to ask, is that 5% a year? Is that 5% a month? No, it's always annual. Always is. All right, so if you invested $100 in your local bank and you made 5%, how much would you have at the end of the year? What we do is we take this $100 and we multiply it by the decimal equivalent of 5%. This gives us $5. We then add it to the $100 for a total of $105 after 1 year. If we leave it in there for another year and it earns 5% interest more, what we do is multiply it by 5%, and that will give us $5.25. We then take that and add it to the 105, giving us $110.25. Now notice we earned $5 interest in 1 year, but 5.25 in the second year. We earned 25 cents more. And the reason for that is that this 25 cents is actually interest on this $5. So we earn, as they say, interest on the interest. And that idea is called compounding. Compounding is earning interest on the interest. If we take it one more year, we'll take the $110.25, multiply that by 5%, and come up with $5.51. We'll take that and add it to what we had previously for a total of $115.76. And so this grows faster and faster as time goes on. If I were to draw a graph of how our money grows, we have dollars along here, we have time along here. It starts off at $100, and then it grows by 5, and it grows by 5.25, and it grows by 5.51, and it gets bigger and bigger. And as we take this out, what ends up happening is it grows like this. And this area out in here, they often refer to that as the hockey stick. That's where the money really is growing very rapidly. It takes a while until you get out that far, but once you're out there, it can really grow. And that's why it's really important when you're saving for long-term goals, such as retirement, that you start early as you can, so that these dollars have the opportunity to grow fast, but it takes a while to get there. All right, so let's start with using one of our formulas that will help us calculate these future numbers, and that will appear in the next video.